Sophie Lane got pulled over by a traffic cop for riding her e-scooter without a helmet. Unfortunately, her belly was a little round from overeating, which made the officer mistake her for a pregnant woman. To avoid a fine, Sophie went with it and played the expecting mom card. It worked. She got off scotangent-free. But the next day, Sophie went on a blind date and nearly fell out of her chair when she saw who was waiting for her. Nathan Coleith, very same cop who had let her go the day before, was her date. He narrowed his eyes, suspicious. "Weren't you pregnant yesterday? And now you're out here dating?" Sophie flashed a calm smile. "Oh, that? I took care of it this morning." And just like that, the most awkward meet-cute turned into a laugh-out-loud battle of wits between a sly, lovable troublemaker and a by-the-book police officer. Who will win this chaotic game of love? If you love emotional, heartwarming stories, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Let's dive into a tale that will stir your heart and stay with you long after the last word. As Sophie Lane zipped around the corner on her e-scooter, she spotted a traffic cop standing just ahead. That was the exact moment she finally understood what fate at a street corner really meant. Her heart pounded faster than her thoughts. She instinctively pulled over, scrambling to find her helmet in the front basket. But it was too late. The officer had already spotted her. He waved her over with a firm gesture. "Monsieur, you! No helmet? Don't bother putting it on now." Knowing there was no escape, Sophie took a deep breath and pushed the scooter toward him. But she was so nervous, she nearly crashed into him. He stepped back just in time and quipped, "Careful. One more move like that and I'll have to charge you with assaulting an officer." She slammed the brakes and flushed beet red, staring at the young officer's annoyingly handsome face. "I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to. I'm really, really sorry, officer." Once her scooter was stable, he gestured for her to step off. She had just come from a buffet dinner with co-workers, stuffed to the brim, so dismounting wasn't exactly graceful. As he asked for her ID, his eyes drifted to her slightly rounded belly. "You're pregnant? Riding a scooter like this? And no helmet?" Sophie glanced down at her bloated stomach and froze. "Pregnant?" she echoed blankly. He frowned, serious now. "Where's your husband? He just lets you ride around alone like this? Totally irresponsible." Seeing his perfect face up close made her brain short-circuit. "He ran off," she blurted out. The officer paused mid-motion, eyes wide. "What? He ran out on you?" She nodded quickly. The air between them turned awkward. The officer gave her a long look, then muttered, "Sorry, I didn't know." He fiddled with his ticket device, muttering under his breath, "Ugh, why won't this thing print?" Sophie hesitantly asked, "Officer? How's the fine for not wearing a helmet?" Still staring at the device, he said, 300. 300? Her heart sank. That was the cost of a nice dinner. Just thinking about it made her feel sick. He glanced up, probably catching her despair. Then, without a word, he walked over to his captain and whispered something. The captain threw Sophie a suspicious look, then nodded and replied something short. The officer came back. "Since you're a pregnant woman and it's your first offense, I'll let you off with a warning." Her eyes lit up. "Really? Thank you, officer." She signed the screen obediently. He gave her a look filled with sympathy. "It's not the end of the world. Single moms are tough." Sophie smiled sweetly. "Yes, thank you, officer," all while cheering inside. Saved from a $300 fine. She reached for her helmet and was about to ride off when the officer called out again, "Don't forget your helmet next time!" "Yes, sir, I promise," she replied and sped away. By the time she got home, it was nearly 9 p.m. She was surprised to find her mum still awake, watching television in the bedroom. Her mother's face lit up with a suspiciously knowing smile the second Sophie walked in. Sophie's stomach dropped. She knew that look. She made a beeline for her room only for her dad's broad frame to block the doorway. Her mom stepped over and shoved a phone in Sophie's face. "Look at this guy," Aunt Tessa recommended him. "Isn't he adorable? You're meeting him." Sophie groaned. "Mom, please, just let me live." But her mother dramatically launched into full Oscar-worthy performance mode. "Oh, I'm cursed. Aunt Tessa's grandson already buys soy sauce on his own, and here I am, a shriveled old lady with a daughter who can't even hold down a date." Sophie looked at her mother like she was about to burst into song, and then it hit her, so that's where her own flair for dramatics came from. She replied, "Have you forgotten about that guy you set me up with last time? Took me on a walk around the park all day and didn't even offer dinner. The bottled water he gave me was tap water in a crumpled up plastic bottle. I nearly died of starvation." Her mom paused. Clearly, she remembered the disaster, but she was undeterred. "Oh, come on, this one's different. Aunt Tessa swears he's top quality." Sophie didn't want to keep arguing, so she turned to Goonley to find her dad still blocking the door. "Dad, move." He looked over at her mum, who was still deep in character, then replied obediently, "Your mum told me to stand here, so I'm standing here." Her mom pushed the phone at her again. "Just save his number. Go meet him. I swear if you go, I'll let you back in your room." Sophie exhaled sharply. "Fine, send it to me." Later that night, she lay in bed, staring at the number her mom had just texted her. She didn't even want to add him on the app, but just the thought of her mom's next meltdown. Earlier, Sophie had reluctantly hit add friend, just to get it over with. Worst case, it'd be another disaster, like last time, some creepy uncle type she could ditch quickly. But then her mom's dramatic voice echoed in her mind, and the dread forced her thumb to send the friend request. To her surprise, he accepted it almost instantly. Within seconds, a message popped up. "Hi, I'm Nathan Cole. So sorry, I should have sent the request first. Just got off work." Sophie quickly replied, "No worries. Doesn't matter who adds first." Then, he sent her a handshake emoji. Immediate ick. That was the same emoji her dad always used. Was this guy another boring middle-aged man? She rolled her eyes. Probably another safe, stable, painfully dull type. But before she could spiral, another message came. "Are you free tomorrow afternoon? Let's grab lunch." Sophie considered turning him down, but then she shrugged. Might as well get the awkwardness over with. "I'm free. You pick the place. See you tomorrow." He responded with a thumbs-up emoji. Any sliver of hope she had left completely vanished. Nathan picked a lunch spot and texted the address. Sophie arrived a little early. The restaurant wasn't busy yet, so she stood at the entrance scanning the room. Then she froze. Across the restaurant, she spotted someone familiar and horrifying, the traffic cop who had let her off yesterday. Panic surged. She ducked her head and frantically messaged Nathan. "Hey, are you here yet? Can we switch locations?" He replied immediately. "I'm already here. Why? Something wrong?" Sophie's heart dropped. "Where are you?" "You're here already? I'll come get you." The moment she hit send, a voice called out, "Over here!" Sophie looked up and locked eyes with him. "Officer Nathan." He waved. She stared, stunned. Her stomach sank. Her mouth went dry. You're Nathan Cole." He blinked in disbelief. "Wait, you're Sophie Lane?" She nodded slowly, his jaw clenched. Didn't you say you were pregnant yesterday? What are you doing on a blind date? The disbelief and judgment in his voice was impossible to miss. Sophie panicked. She couldn't possibly confess that she faked a pregnancy to avoid a fine. He had felt bad for her. He let her go. If she admitted it now, would that be considered lying to an officer? Could she get arrested? Before she could think, her mouth blurted out, I had the procedure this morning. Nathan's eyes widened. Wait, what? You had an abortion? Sophie scratched her head nervously. Yeah, I did. The look on his face was indescribable, like he had walked into a sitcom gone wrong. He said nothing, just flipped the menu and pointed at a few random items. Sophie sat awkwardly, unable to find a single word. He finally looked up, his voice low. You're really irresponsible. You know that? What the hell? She should have just said she'd already given birth. Anything but this. They'd been sitting there for a while, when a waitress came by and asked if they were ready to order. Nathan glanced at her. Sophie pointed at a random item and added, and a lemonade, extra ice. Yeah, more ice. She sipped her lemonade in silence. Damn it. Nathan Cole really was her type. Broad shoulders, narrow waist, sharp brows, piercing gaze, serious demeanor. No wonder she had been so nervous around him yesterday. No wonder she babbled like an idiot and dug herself a grave. This was all her fault. She'd definitely blown it. Still, as the regret sank in, one thing kept tugging at her. Maybe, just maybe, there was still a chance to make it right. She just had to figure out what to say. But all afternoon, no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't find the words. Just as Sophie Lane was rolling around on her bed in frustration, her best friend Ava Brooks called. You doing anything tonight? Sophie groaned. Nope, just trying to forget I ever went on that date. Perfect. I need backup. It's dead in here tonight, and the bar feels like a funeral. Ava had recently opened a cocktail lounge and, whenever business was slow, she'd call up friends to hang out and make the place look busier. Sophie figured, why not? It's not like she was sleeping anytime soon. Fine, I'm coming. Oh, and wear something hot, not like last time. Sophie rolled her eyes. You ask for help and still come with demands. Still, she dug into her closet and pulled out the dress Ava had forced her to buy last month. She had to admit, it hugged her curves in all the right places. When she arrived, the bar was nothing like Ava described. It was packed wall to wall. Sophie spotted Ava behind the bar and made her way over. Didn't you say you were short on people tonight? Looks pretty full to me. Ava gave her an apologetic grin. It was dead when I called. Then right after I hung up, boom wave of customers. Sophie glared. You could have told me not to come. I look like I'm trying way too hard. Come on, stay. Help out a little, yeah? I'll pay for your Uber back. Sophie shot her another glare. Wearing this just to go home? What a waste. Then get behind the bar and help out. Better than sulking in traffic. So Sophie got roped into bartending for half the night. By the end of her shift, her back ached and her legs were killing her. Slumping onto a stool, she huffed. Seriously, Ava, you need to hire more people. When it's slow, I'm your plant. When it's busy, I'm your backup staff. I can't do both. Ava leaned in, grinning. Oh, come on. You love me. Just hold out a little longer. Once we're steady, I'll hire some hot male bartenders, and you get first pick. Sophie gave a mock sigh. You better. Then Ava changed the subject. So how was that blind date? Sophie's smile vanished. Don't ask. Ugh, not another weirdo. Nope. This time I was the weirdo. Luckily, Ava didn't press her. She just sighed. I swear, your mom never lets up. Then she added, honestly though, you come here all the time. This place is full of decent-looking guys. Why not just pick one? Sophie wrinkled her nose. Please, this crowd, pass. At least they're not balding middle-aged dads like the ones your mom keeps setting you up with. Sophie opened her mouth, then shut it again. Fair point. Ava got pulled away by more bar business, finally giving Sophie a chance to rest. She leaned on the bar, watching the crowd pass in waves. Then her eyes landed on a guy's back across the room and she knew immediately. Tall, broad shoulders, just from behind, he looked like trouble in all the right ways. She remembered what Ava said earlier and thought, why not? I'm not shopping for a boyfriend, just a little small talk. Maybe it was the music, maybe the drinks, maybe the night, but she suddenly had the guts to walk over. Hey there, she said with a flirty smile. You here alone? The guy turned around, and Sophie froze. So did he. It was Nathan Cole. Of course it was. He squinted at her. Sophie Lane? She forced a laugh. Well, hi again, Officer Cole. Long time. We literally saw each other this morning. Sophie scratched her head. Right. Huh. Yeah. His eyes drifted down to her outfit, and his frown deepened. What are you doing here? Her mouth opened, closed. What was she supposed to say? Saw you from across the room and thought you looked hot? Before she could stammer out a disaster, Ava called from behind the bar. Sophie, can you give me a hand here? Sophie latched onto the excuse like a drowning woman to a life raft. Coming! Nathan watched, brow raised. You work here? She turned back. No, I just... But he cut her off with a sarcastic smile. Well, you're doing a great job. Real pro. Morning, fake abortion, afternoon, blind date, night, bar gig. What a full day. Sophie's stomach dropped. She opened her mouth to explain, but Ava was already yelling again. Girl, I need you now. I can't carry this by myself. Sophie glanced back at Nathan. Officer Cole, please, it's not what it looks like. I'll explain. I swear. He didn't respond. Just stared. Unreadable. She had no choice. She turned and rushed to help Ava. Back home, she opened the chat window with Nathan. She hovered her fingers over the keyboard. Should she start with the lie from yesterday? The misunderstanding today? The bar? Too much. She settled on something simple and safe. She sent a sticker. You there? A red exclamation mark popped up immediately. Friend verification required. Sophie bolted upright in bed. Number. Freaking. Way. Nathan Cole had deleted her. She sat there, stunned, then furious. He could have at least said something. Now she had no way to explain. No way to fix it. Flopping back onto her bed, she felt sick with regret, all over a stupid $300 fine. Now she'd lost any chanchel, any dignity. She opened his contact page again, then closed it, then opened it, again and again. But in the end, she didn't send a new request. The image of her pathetic, in his eyes was, probably burned in his brain forever. And if she sent another request, only to be rejected? After a long night of tossing and turning, Sophie Lane finally gave up on trying to fix things. She told herself to move on, but sleep didn't come. She stared at the ceiling, regretting everything. It was Sunday. She'd planned to sleep in and recover from her mental breakdown. But fate wasn't having it. Her phone rang early in the morning. It was the school principal. "Hey, Sophie, we're hosting a road safety seminar on Monday. We'll have an officer come speak. Can you assist with the presentation?" Sophie sat frozen. She felt like she'd just been hit by a bus. But she was a regular teacher. No clout, no say in anything. So she dragged her exhausted body out of bed, dark circles under her eyes, and showed up. In the school office, the principal was chatting happily with a man in civilian clothes. The moment he saw Sophie, he called out cheerfully, "Miss Lane, come here. I want to introduce you." She walked forward, reaching out to shake hands, then froze. Nathan Cole. He looked equally stunned. "You again?" Sophie couldn't believe it either. Of all people. Nathan narrowed his eyes. "You must really enjoy running into me." The principal raised a brow. "Oh? Do you two know each other?" Before she could answer, Nathan said, "Nope." "No? Well, anyway, Officer Cole, this is Miss Lanioni of our teachers. She can help you with anything you need." He gave her a look. "You're a teacher?" "Yes," she replied carefully. Nathan scoffed. "Guess the state standards have really dropped, huh?" "What's that supposed to mean?" He shrugged. "Nothing. Just surprised." Sophie figured this was her only chance to explain. So she started, "Officer Cole, I think there's been a misunderstanding. I really want to clear." He cut her off, cold and sharp. "Not interested. I'm here to work. I don't care about anything else. And honestly, I don't see any misunderstanding." Then, raising his hand like a traffic cop, he added, "Let's focus on the school info. Spare me the side stories." Sophie bit her lip. His attitude was brutal, but she had no one to blame but herself. She pulled it together and gave her report. Nathan took notes with precise focus. He looked unfairly good when he was exactly her type. Too bad she'd ruined everything. When she finished, he closed his notebook. "Thanks. You can go." But Sophie hesitated. Maybe she still had time to explain. "Officer Cole, if I could just..." He held up a hand and walked out. Back home, she sat in silence. Then opened her chat window again. "One more friend request." She stared at the screen for a full minute before sending it. Unsurprisingly, he didn't accept. She threw her phone aside and collapsed face first on the bed. That was it. She was out of chances. Maybe they just weren't meant to cross paths. Still, she couldn't sleep that night either. Regret twisted in her chest like a knife. Meanwhile, Nathan Cole was having his own mental meltdown. His grandma had been pressuring him non-stop to go on blind dates. He wasn't even 30 yet, had a solid job, decent looks, why the rush? Finally, just to shut her up, he agreed to one. Just one. Then the girl showed up. The same girl he'd pulled over the day before, the pregnant scooter rider. He'd felt bad when she told him her boyfriend had ditched her. He even let her off without a fine. But now, she showed up at a blind date, while allegedly pregnant, trying to find a replacement baby daddy? And when he called her out, she calmly said she had an abortion that morning. Nathan couldn't tell if it was the truth or another lie. Either way, it was appalling. Completely irresponsible. She looked put together on the outside, but inside, no way. He wanted nothing to do with someone like that. He didn't even stay for lunch. He went straight home and yelled at his grandma, "Please stop setting me up. You keep finding the worst people." That night, still annoyed, he went to a bar alone. And who showed up to flirt with him? Sophie. He thought she was working there based on her outfit. And then, of course, she got pulled away, like some cocktail waitress. That only deepened his disgust. Of course she was reckless and ridiculous. Of course she worked at a bar. At that point, Nathan figured that was it. Done. Over. No more contact. But the next morning, his superior called him in early for a school visit. He showed up groggy and walked straight into her again. Unbelievable. Nathan Cole could hardly believe it. She was a teacher at this school. A wave of exasperation washed over him. He felt like he was cursed. Was the universe seriously stalking him with this girl? He even started questioning the public education system. Did schools not check basic qualifications anymore? What kind of moral standard were they working with? Sophie Lane looked like she was scrambling to keep their past encounters under wraps. She kept trying to explain, following him around like a shadow, but Nathan wasn't having it. He shut her down with cold efficiency and finished the assignment as quickly as possible. Thankfully, she got the hint and didn't keep chasing after him. He left the building with a shake of the head. People like her, society's really going downhill. Sophie had been dreading Monday, expecting Nathan to return for the presentation. After he ignored her friend request the night before, just thinking about seeing him again made her cringe. But when she arrived, it turned out another officer had been assigned. She sighed in relief but also felt a strange pang of disappointment. A month passed. Sophie figured she was over it. Then one day after work, she came home and immediately saw that look on her mum's face, the smug, scheming, matchmaking look. She tried to bolt for her room, but her dad was already blocking the doorway. Déjà vu. Her mum launched in without missing a beat. Last time didn't work out, but today at the park, during yoga session, I met a lovely woman whose son is very handsome. I got his number for you. Sophie raised both hands in surrender. Please, Mom, I'm begging you. Can we not? But her mum was already in dramatic performance mode. My poor, lonely soul. Even the neighbour's grandkid is grocery shopping on his own now, and I'm still here waiting for a wedding. Sophie sighed. Mom, I'm done going on dates with balding middle-aged men, okay? Her mom shook her head quickly. This one's young. I saw him myself, handsome and polite. Sophie squinted at her. I don't trust your taste. Her mom shoved her phone into Sophie's face. Look, just one picture. Sophie peeked then paused. Okay, credit where it's due. He was decent, clean-cut, respectable-looking. Seeing her hesitate, her mum pressed on. See? I wasn't lying this time. I'll send you his number. Message him. Sophie replied cautiously. Hold on. What does he do? No more surprises. Thank you very much. Her mum paused. I think he's a lawyer. Sophie let out a breath of relief. Lawyer? Okay, I can handle that. Great, I'll send his number now. Honey, move out of the way, her mum called to her dad, beaming. That night, Sophie was lying in bed when she remembered the number. Before she could do anything, she got a friend request. They had added her first. They exchanged a few polite messages and agreed to meet the next evening after work. He even offered to pick her up. Over dinner, they got along surprisingly well. Conversation flowed. No awkward tension. No red flags. Sophie found herself actually relaxing. Before dropping her off, they agreed to meet again that weekend, maybe paddle boating in the park. He was respectful, attentive, and considerate. Sophie was cautiously optimistic. But as the car turned a corner on the way home, they ran into a DUI checkpoint. The second she saw the officer approaching, Sophie stiffened. Nathan Cole. He was walking toward them, clipboard in hand. She turned her head quickly, pretending to look out the other window, silently praying he wouldn't recognize her. When he saw who was inside, his brows rose. Attorney Chu? Hey, Nathan, the lawyer smiled, rolling down the window. Didn't expect to see you working this area. Nathan chuckled. I thought your place was on the west side of town. What brings you over here? Attorney Chu tilted his head towards Sophie. Dropping someone off. Sophie froze. If she turned around now, she'd die of embarrassment. Nathan raised an eyebrow. A date? Attorney Chu grinned. Not yet. Still depends on her. Nathan's eyes briefly flicked towards Sophie. Unreadable. And she? She wanted to disappear into the car seat. Nathan Cole chuckled. Well now, I've got to meet this future girlfriend of yours. Sophie's eyes went wide in panic. Attorney Chu turned toward her, smiling. Officer Cole, this is Miss Lanish's, a friend of my mum's friend. Sophie didn't dare turn around. She kept her head low and squeaked out, Hi. Nathan tilted his head. Miss Lane? She wanted the ground to swallow her whole. She forced a crooked smile and turned to face him. Hello, Officer Cole. Fancy seeing you again? Nathan's expression instantly hardened. You've got to be kidding me. Attorney Chu looked between them, surprised. Wait, you two know each other? Nathan's gaze darkened, his voice tight. We've met! Then, turning to Attorney Chu, he said stiffly, You should probably go ahead and take Miss Lane home. During the drive, Attorney Chu looked genuinely puzzled. So, how do you know Nathan? Sophie swallowed. There was no way she could say, We met because I faked a pregnancy to get out of a traffic ticket and then went on a disastrous blind date with him. So she kept it simple. He once came to the school I teach at. We've crossed paths a few times. Thankfully, Attorney Chu didn't pry. When they arrived at her place and said goodbye, she couldn't stop thinking about the way Nathan had looked at her. That glare wouldn't leave her mind. Later that night, she got a message. Sorry, Miss Lane, I won't be able to meet this weekend. She stared at the screen. Is something wrong? She texted. After a long pause, he replied, I just don't think we're a good match. She blinked in disbelief. That came out of nowhere. Their last date had gone great, hadn't it? Then Nathan's look from earlier flashed through her mind. She typed, Did Officer Cole say something to you? No response. But she already knew the answer. Damn you, Nathan Cole, she muttered. What kind of person can't even let someone explain? Fuming, she opened her app and sent him another friend request. No response. She sent another and another. Finally, he accepted. She didn't text, she called. He picked up on the first ring. What do you want? Sophie launched in. Do you seriously have nothing better to do? Did you talk to Attorney Chu about me? He didn't hesitate. I only told the truth. Sophie nearly screamed. The truth? You mean your twisted version of it? I told you there was a misunderstanding, but you didn't give me the chance to explain. And now you're going around trashing me to people? Nathan's voice turned ice cold. I don't need an explanation. Just don't drag my friends into your mess. Click! He hung up. Sophie stared at her screen, shaking with anger. She wanted to smash her phone. Fine. No more guilt. No more second chances. She swore she'd never want to see him again. But the universe had other plans. Later that evening, Sophie was heading home on her electric scooter, taking a shortcut through a quiet neighborhood. She stopped at a red light. A black car suddenly sped through the intersection, blowing the light. Sophie watched in horror as it slammed into a man crossing the street. He flew through the air and hit the pavement with a sickening crack right in front of her. Blood spilled across the road. For a second, she couldn't move. Her brain shut down. By the time she jumped off her scooter, the car had disappeared. She ran to the man, panic surging through her. There was so much blood. His head was bleeding badly. He was unconscious and twitching. She dropped to her knees beside him, jacket in hand, pressing it over the wound, but she didn't know what she was doing. Her hands were shaking. She couldn't stop trembling. People began to gather. Someone yelled, "Call 911!" That snapped her out of it. She fumbled for her phone, dropping it once before finally dialing. Her voice shook as she gave their location. Others called the police. Soon, flashing lights filled the street. Officers swarmed the scene. A few rushed over to her. "Miss, were you involved in this accident?" "No, there was a red light. The car ran it, there's so much blood." "Ma'am, breathe. Just breathe. Tell us what happened slowly." She couldn't form words. Her lips trembled. Her eyes kept darting to the bleeding man. Then she heard a familiar voice. "Sophie?" She turned and saw Nathan. She didn't even hesitate. She grabbed his sleeve like a lifeline. "It wasn't me. He's hurt. He's bleeding so much. You have to help." She must have looked like a wreck. Her hands were covered in blood. Her dress was stained. Her face was blotchy from crying. Nathan snapped into action. "Clear the crowd. Keep traffic back." Then he turned to her and asked gently, "Are you hurt?" She couldn't even process his words. "He's bleeding. He's still bleeding." "The ambulance is almost here. You did good. Just hang on." The sirens wailed as the ambulance pulled up. Since she was the first caller, they told her to ride with them. Nathan climbed in too, and for a moment, just for a second, she was grateful he was there. Sophie sat frozen in the ER waiting room, her eyes locked on the chaos just a few feet away. Medical staff were swarming the injured man, hooking up tubes, cutting away blood-soaked clothes. Her body shook uncontrollably. She couldn't stop trembling. Then a warm hand settled over hers, steady, grounding. She turned and saw him, Officer Nathan Cole, sitting right next to her, watching her quietly. The second their eyes met, she burst into tears. "What do I do, Officer Cole? What if he doesn't make it?" Her voice cracked. "Is he going to die?" Nathan's tone was calm but kind. "He won't! You called 911 right away. That helped more than you know." But the blood god, there had been so much blood. The jacket she'd used to press against his wound had been soaked through by the time they reached the hospital. The sight of it still clung to her like a stain on her soul, as the doctors and nurses pushed the gurney through the double doors. Sophie numbly stepped aside. Then she paid the ER admission fee, hands still shaking, and slumped into a seat beside Nathan in the waiting area. The air conditioning wasn't even that strong, but she was freezing. Nathan must have noticed. He shrugged off his uniform jacket and gently draped it over her shoulders. Sophie stared at the floor. Her mind kept looping back to the moment. The crash, the scream, the blood, the lifeless body on the ground. Her lips trembled. A tear slipped down her cheek. Nathan reached over and took her hand again. "It's okay. The doctors are doing everything they can." Just then, the ER doors flew open. A cluster of people rushed inside, frantic and breathless, the victim's family. Their eyes darted everywhere until one of them caught sight of Sophie. She was still trembling, still pale and disheveled. They jumped to conclusions immediately. "You? Was it you? Did you hit him? You're the one who ran him over, aren't you?" Sophie's eyes widened in horror. No, I didn't. It wasn't me." Nathan was on his feet in a second, stepping protectively in front of her. "Everyone calm down," he said firmly. "She was riding a scooter. She couldn't have caused the accident. She's the one who called for help. If she hadn't, your brother, he caught himself. The victim wouldn't have made it this far. The family wasn't convinced. One woman glared at Sophie, lips pursed. You sure? Why else would she be here, looking like that? There are traffic cameras at the intersection, Nathan added. We already pulled the footage. That finally made them pause. Still, they kept casting nervous, accusatory glances at her. Nathan didn't budge. He stood firm between them, his posture quietly shielding Sophie from their anger. Minutes later, an officer from the crash site arrived. He handed Nathan a tablet. We've got the video. The family watched in silence. As the footage played, the truth became undeniable. Sophie had nothing to do with the crash. If anything, she'd been the only person who stopped to help. Their expressions softened. One woman even looked embarrassed, but no one apologized. Nathan gently leaned down to Sophie. Let's get you home. She hesitated, then nodded slowly. But just as they stood, the ER doors slammed open again. The doctor emerged, still wearing surgical gloves. His face was grim. I'm sorry. We did everything we could, but the injuries were too severe. The woman at the front of the family group let out a heart-wrenching scream, a primal, soul-crushing wail that sliced through the room like a knife. The grief in the air was unbearable. Sophie broke down again. Her knees nearly gave out. Nathan caught her just in time and wrapped his arms around her, holding her close. It's okay. You did everything you could, he murmured, over and over, like a mantra. But her tears wouldn't stop, because it didn't feel okay, not at all. Sophie sat on the cold hospital bench, her shoulders shaking as guilt crashed over her in waves. It's all my fault, she whispered through sobs. If I had called sooner, if I hadn't hesitated. Nathan Cole didn't know what else to do, so he wrapped his arms around her. It's not your fault, he said firmly. You did great. You really did. But she wasn't listening. Her voice trembled with anguish as she repeated it over and over. If I'd been faster, he wouldn't have died. He'd still be alive. It's all my fault. Nathan held her tighter, letting her cry into his chest. It took a long while before her breathing steadied and her body stopped trembling. Only then did Nathan gently guide her to his car. As they drove, the image of the victim's family sobbing, nearly collapsing in grief, played in her mind like a haunting film reel. Her heart felt like it was being squeezed in a vice. Sophie didn't say a word the entire ride. She just sat there, silently wiping tears from her cheeks. Nathan glanced over. Sophie, it really wasn't your fault. The doctors said he didn't even have a pulse on the way in. You couldn't have changed that. But his words bounced right off her. She couldn't hear him, couldn't absorb anything. This was the first time she'd ever witnessed someone die. One moment, alive. The next, gone. And the blood that deep, terrifying red was still etched in her memory, like a permanent stain. When they finally pulled into her driveway, her parents opened the door and froze in shock at the sight of her. Bloodied, pale, eyes vacant. Nathan quickly stepped forward and explained everything. Her parents finally breathed again, then rushed to her side, guiding her gently into the house. Her mother ran to grab clean clothes. Her father, still shaken, turned to Nathan. Please, come in, have something to drink. Nathan shook his head. Thank you, sir, but I've got to head back to the station. Just wanted to make sure she got home safe. He turned to Sophie. Just have her return my jacket later. Only then did Sophie realize she was still wrapped in his uniform coat. As he reached the door, Nathan turned one last time and looked at her, His voice was low but sincere. "Miss Lane, what happened wasn't your fault. It was the fault of the one who ran the light. You did everything you could." Then he turned to her parents. "She needs support. Please check on her, encourage her." With that, he was gone. Her parents shut the door behind him, then turned to her with worried eyes. Her mom gently stroked her hair. "Sweetheart, this wasn't your fault. Please don't punish yourself." And just like that, the dam broke again. Sophie collapsed into her mother's arms, sobbing harder than she had at the hospital. "Mom, it was my fault. I was too slow. I should have realized sooner. I should have called faster." That night, her mother didn't leave her side. She curled up next to Sophie in bed, gently rubbing her back, whispering soothing words, but sleep never came. Sophie spent the entire night trapped in vivid nightmares. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw blood, bright, violent, endless. For the next several days, it didn't stop. Her father had to call the school and request time off on her behalf. It took a full week before Sophie could even think about returning to normal. Finally, on the morning she was supposed to go back to work, she stepped outside only to hear someone shout her name. "Sophie!" She turned and blinked. Nathan Cole was sitting on her electric scooter, casually riding up the street like he'd done it 100 times. The sight of a tall, broad-shouldered man awkwardly perched on a tiny pink scooter was so ridiculous, she nearly smiled. He pulled up to the curb and hopped off, holding out her keys. "Hey, my partner helped me retrieve this for you. Figured I'd return it myself." She took the keys, a bit stunned. Nathan continued. "Also, the victim's family asked if they could send you money to cover the hospital deposit you paid. I told them I'd forward it to you directly." Sophie hesitated, then said quietly, "Thanks." Nathan scratched the back of his neck. "No problem. Can you show me your QR code so I can transfer it to you?" She pulled out her phone but raised an eyebrow. "Could have just sent it over Zallo Pay, you know." His expression froze. Sophie narrowed her eyes. "Wait, did you delete me again?" Nathan let out a dry, awkward cough. "Yeah, about that." "You deleted me again?" she said, trying to sound annoyed, but she couldn't quite hide the tiny smirk forming. He looked sheepish. "I'll add you back." With a dramatic sigh, she opened the app and showed her code. As he scanned it, she watched him silently, something fluttering in her chest. After the money came through, he turned to leave but paused. Looking like he wanted to say something, she hesitated too. There was so much she wanted to say, but the words stayed stuck in her throat. For a second, neither of them moved, and then, like always, the moment passed. As they walked, Nathan glanced over. "You looked like you were about to say something," he said. "Were you?" Sophie cleared her throat. "Yeah, I just wanted to say, Officer Cole, earlier you were riding my scooter without a helmet." His face turned red, instantly. Sophie grinned. "Good thing no traffic cops were around. You would have gotten fined." Nathan looked away, even more flustered. "Yeah, well." Ever since the accident, the tension between them had started to ease. It wasn't much, but it was enough for Sophie to sense that maybe, just maybe, Nathan didn't hate her anymore. That day, he'd been assigned to manage traffic at her school's gate. Coincidentally, Sophie was on end-of-day duty too. She stood at the entrance, smiling and waving goodbye to students, occasionally stealing glances at the tall officer, directing the crowd like he'd been born for it. After the last kid left, she returned to the office to grab her bag. When she came back outside, Nathan was still there. Seeing her, he called out casually, "All done?" "Yeah," she nodded. He looked across the street. "Any good food around here?" Sophie thought for a second. "There's a great little wonton place just down that alley." He tilted his head. "Want to grab dinner?" She blinked. "What?" "If you're busy, it's fine." "I'm not," she said quickly. "Dinner sounds good." After the meal, he offered to walk her home. "You're not riding?" he asked. "No," she said. "I've been kind of nervous about it lately, mostly taking the bus or walking." Nathan's gaze softened. "It wasn't your fault. The doctor said he didn't have a pulse in the ambulance." Sophie nodded, eyes low. "Still, I can't stop thinking about it." He patted her shoulder. "I've been there. First time I responded to a fatal crash, I couldn't sleep for a week." "Did they catch the driver?" He nodded. "Yeah. Small business owner. Drunk that night." "Did he get the death penalty?" "Technically, yeah, but it's suspended. 2 years probation." Sophie's eyes flared. "Are you kidding me? He killed someone and just gets a time out? He should have been tossed in traffic. Let him get hit 100 times. Let him bleed on the pavement." She looked up and realized Nathan was staring at her, eyes bright with amusement. She blushed. "Sorry, got a little carried away." He chuckled. "I didn't say I disagreed. You're pretty passionate, Miss Lane." She looked away, cheeks still red. "I'll walk you to the bus stop," he said. "No need. I live like a mile from here." "Then I'll walk with you. I need to burn off the noodles." They walked together down the quiet street, wind brushing past like a soft whisper. Everything felt oddly peaceful. Sophie glanced at him. "It's funny. 2 months ago we couldn't stand each other, and now here we are." "Yeah," he said. "Fate's weird like that." "Officer Cole," she said after a pause, "there's something I've been meaning to tell you." But before she could finish, an e-scooter came flying around the corner and almost clipped her shoulder. Nathan grabbed her instantly, pulling her back to the sidewalk. "You okay?" he asked, steadying her. "I'm fine," she said, breathless. Nathan turned toward the scooter, voice sharp. "Hey, pull over!" The rider slowed down quickly, clearly startled by the badge. He stepped off and began apologizing, head lowered. The second he spoke, Sophie froze. That voice was familiar. She looked up. "Eric?" "Sophie?" They both said it at the same time. Nathan turned, confused. "You two know each other?" Sophie's voice was small. "That's my ex." Nathan's face darkened. "He's the one who knocked you up and ditched you, isn't he?" "What?" Eric blurted out. "We dated in high school. I didn't even kiss her." Without another word, Nathan grabbed him by the collar. "Hey, what the hell, man?" Eric shouted, squirming. "Why are you trying to beat up your ex's ex?" "Because you walked out on her," Nathan barked. "And now you're cruising around like nothing happened." Sophie threw herself between them. "Nathan, stop! Please!" He looked at her, confused and furious. "Why are you defending him?" "Because he didn't do anything. We broke up years ago, and there was never a baby." Nathan's hands froze. "What?" Sophie nodded. "I lied." Nathan slowly released Eric, who dusted off his shirt and glared. "Geez, you two need a sitcom." You lied? Nathan said, stunned. I made it up. The whole pregnancy thing. I was trying to get out of a $300 ticket. I panicked. Nathan was speechless. And the next day, she continued, I said I had a procedure because I thought you'd figure it out and fine me retroactively. Nathan shook his head slowly, trying to process. Sophie Lane, you really faked an entire pregnancy to avoid a helmet fine? I was going to explain, she said, but you kept ignoring me. He sighed and looked away. I thought you were irresponsible, but this is something else. I'm sorry. I don't need an apology, he said. You should apologize to yourself. You're better than that. You don't need to lie to get through life. She didn't know what to say. He hailed her a cab, and before she stepped in, he said quietly, Go home. Get some rest. She watched him disappear into the city as the car pulled away. That night, she stared at their old messages, hesitated, and sent a sticker. Nathan replied immediately, What's that for? Checking if you deleted me again. No response. She sent another message. Still nothing. And just like that, silence again. On the way back, the two of them made small talk, nothing deep, just the kind of casual chatter that drifted from one topic to the next. Sophie thought maybe this was the right moment, the right mood, to finally clear up the misunderstanding between them. She hesitated, trying to find the opening. Sometimes, she said suddenly, fate is strange. Nathan turned to look at her. Why do you say that? Sophie smiled. Just thinking. 2 months ago, we could barely stand each other, and now here we are, walking side by side under the evening breeze. Nathan chuckled. You're right. Fate really is strange. He paused, then added more seriously, But Miss Lane, there's something I've been meaning to say to you. She glanced over. What is it? He cleared his throat, tone turning serious. Earlier, you said that drunk driver was irresponsible, and I agree, but I also think you need to take better care of yourself. She blinked in surprise. He quickly clarified. I'm not saying you don't respect yourself. I mean, physically, you need to take better care of your health. For example, last time, after everything you claimed had happened, you were still drinking cold drinks. That kind of thing isn't good for your body. You might feel fine now while you're young, but as you get older, that kind of damage will catch up to you. The way he said it, so serious, so old-fashioned, made her burst into laughter. He looked like a fussy grandma giving a health lecture. Still giggling, she thought now's the time. She had to explain. Officer Cole, she began carefully, there's something I really need to clear up with you. What is it? He asked. But just as she opened her mouth, an electric scooter came speeding out of nowhere, nearly hitting her. Nathan reacted instantly, grabbing her arm and pulling her to safety. She stumbled a little, grabbing his arm to steady herself. You okay? He asked, worried. Sophie nodded. I'm fine. But his concerned eyes turned sharp, then furious. He pointed at the scooter speeding off down the street. Hey! Stop right there! Still in uniform, his voice left no room for argument. The rider obeyed, made a U-turn, and nervously got off the scooter, apologizing non-stop. But the moment the rider spoke, Sophie froze. The voice, it was familiar. She looked up. Eric? Sophie? They both said each other's names at the same time. Nathan looked back and forth between them, his expression hardening. You two know each other? Sophie awkwardly replied, He's my ex-boyfriend. Nathan looked stunned for a second, then his face darkened, his voice dropped. He's the one who got you pregnant and then ran off, isn't he? Before Sophie could react, Nathan had already grabbed Eric by the collar. Sophie panicked. Nathan, Officer Cole! Stop, don't hit him! Eric shouted, terrified. What the hell, man? I'm her ex. We broke up ages ago. Why are you even doing this? Nathan's voice was tight with rage. You abandoned her, didn't you? Eric struggled, face red. What are you talking about? We broke up peacefully. It wasn't like that. Nathan turned to Sophie. Peacefully? Sophie nodded. That only made him angrier. Are you serious? He got you pregnant and you just broke up peacefully. What is wrong with you? Eric was completely lost. What pregnancy? We dated in high school and we never even kissed. What the hell is going on? Nathan froze, his grip loosening. He looked stunned. Sophie stood there, flushed with embarrassment, then finally nodded. It wasn't him. Nathan took a deep breath, trying to calm himself down. Then who was it? Tell me. I'll deal with him for you. Sophie looked flustered. She didn't answer. Nathan's face grew cold again. Sophie Lane, he snapped. You seriously have a chronic romance disorder or something? You're defending him? He turned and started to walk away, furious. Left with no choice, Sophie shouted after him, I was never pregnant. Nathan stopped in his tracks. He slowly turned around. You weren't? She nodded. This was it, no more lies. She had to come clean. I heard you say you weren't going to give me a fine, so I didn't explain. I lied to get out of the ticket. Nathan looked at her like he couldn't believe what he was hearing. You didn't make up that story to protect him, did you? He asked suspiciously. Sophie shook her head quickly. No, I swear. If you don't believe me, we can go to a hospital right now. I'll prove it. She thought he'd calm down after hearing the truth, but instead, Nathan's anger only seemed to deepen. So you lied, he said, voice low and tightly controlled. Just to get out of a small traffic ticket. You made up something that absurd for a helmet fine. She looked down, ashamed. I know I was wrong. Nathan wasn't finished. And the next day, you added to the lie. Said you had an abortion. Sophie mumbled. I was scared you'd find out and find me after all. He let out a short, bitter laugh. Sophie Lane, I don't even know what to say. Honestly, I never imagined someone could come up with something that ridiculous. She stayed silent, head bowed. You know, he added, we've known each other for a while now. Why didn't you just tell me the truth earlier? I tried, she said quickly. I wanted to explain at school, and later too, but you didn't give me the chance. You wouldn't even look at me. Nathan stared at her, replaying everything in his mind. Then, finally, he sighed. Because I thought you were unbelievable. Sophie looked down and whispered, I'm sorry. He didn't say anything for a moment. Then quietly, he replied, Don't apologize to me. You should be apologizing to yourself. You're still young. You're a decent person. And for what? A $300 ticket? You made up a lie so heavy you nearly buried yourself in it. Sophie quickly waved her hands. No, I swear. If you don't believe me, we can go to the hospital right now and check. She thought once she explained everything, Nathan would stop being mad, but to her surprise, he looked even angrier. He stared at her, clearly struggling to keep his emotions in check. "So, what you're telling me," he said slowly, "is that you made up this ridiculous lie, all for a stupid little helmet ticket." Sophie lowered her head, her cheeks burning with shame. She couldn't even look at him. Nathan wasn't done. "And not only that, but the next day you kept going. You even made up a whole story about getting an abortion." She murmured under her breath, "I was scared you'd find out the truth and find me after all." Nathan let out a laughter and exhausted. "Sophie Lane, you are seriously something else." She didn't know how to respond. All she could do was repeat over and over, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm really sorry." Nathan sighed deeply and stood up. He walked to the curb, flagged down a cab, then turned back to her. "All right, go home." The look on his face was stormy, dark, and unreadable. Sophie could tell she'd really, truly made him angry this time. She didn't know what else to do, so she got in the cab without another word. Back at home, she couldn't shake the guilt. Her heart felt heavy and unsettled. She opened her chat with Nathan, scrolled through all their old messages, over and over. Finally, she worked up the courage to send him a sticker. He responded almost immediately, "What's that for?" Sophie typed back, "Just checking if you've deleted me again." No reply. She sent another message, still nothing. The silence on the other end felt like a black hole, and with every hour that passed, her chest felt emptier. For the next 2 weeks, Nathan didn't reach out at all. She kept rereading their message thread, trying to relive the conversations they once had, but the more she read, the more hopeless she felt. The emotional fog around her thickened every day. She knew Ide was really mad this time, and maybe he'd never speak to her again. That evening, after a long day at work, she came home to find her mum beaming, phone in hand. "I've got a new one for you," her mum announced cheerfully. "This guy is perfect." Normally, Sophie would have groaned, rolled her eyes, fought back. But this time, she didn't. Maybe it was the lingering sadness. Maybe she was just tired of being alone. Or maybe she was finally starting to admit it. She wanted someone who stayed. So she nodded and said, "All right, you can send me his info." Her mom blinked in shock, then recovered. "Really? Wow, that was easier than expected." The man this time was a civil servant, soft-spoken, polite, considerate in the way that made people feel safe. Their dinner went smoothly, conversation was fine. But Sophie felt nothing. After the meal, she thanked him, politely explained how she felt, and he was respectful enough to accept it. He even offered to drive her home. On the way back, as the car turned onto a small side street, they ran into a DUI checkpoint. The car slowed, and that's when Sophie saw him, Nathan Cole, standing in uniform. Their eyes met. His expression froze for a beat, then his gaze moved to the driver's seat, where her date was sitting. Sophie's heart jumped. She instinctively greeted him, voice tight. "Hi, Officer Cole." Nathan pressed his lips together and gave the smallest nod. He didn't say anything. The driver hadn't been drinking, so they were waved through quickly. But the entire ride home, Sophie couldn't stop replaying the way Nathan had looked at her. The cold silence, the disappointment, the distance. When she got home, she slumped onto the couch, full of regret. "Why did I even say hi?" she groaned to herself. "Should have just nodded like he did. Why do I always mess it up?" But then, just as she was spiraling into self-loathing, Her phone rang. Her heart nearly jumped out of her chest. Nathan Cole. She fumbled to answer it, nearly dropping the phone. Hello? Officer Cole? His voice came through, steady and low. Are you home? Yeah, she said, blinking in surprise. There was a pause. Then he asked, Can you come downstairs? I'm right outside your building. She jumped to her feet. Yes, I'll be right down. She threw on a coat, smoothed her hair, and ran to the gate. Nathan was still in uniform, standing tall under the street lamp. When he saw her, he straightened up. She ran up to him, nervous but hopeful. Is everything okay? She asked. Nathan gave a soft cough, avoiding her gaze. You doing anything tonight? She shook her head. Not really. He nodded once. Want to go for a walk? It's been a while since I stretched my legs. Sophie smiled, heart thudding. Sure. They walked side by side along the quiet sidewalk, the night breeze brushing against them. Though their steps were calm and measured, Sophie's heart pounded like a drum. When they turned a corner, Nathan suddenly spoke, like he'd been thinking about it for a while. Walking out here with me like this, your boyfriend's not going to get mad? Sophie blinked. Boyfriend? Nathan nodded. The guy who drove you home. If he's still around and runs into us. She quickly interrupted. He's not my boyfriend. Nathan paused but kept walking. Oh, co-worker then? She shook her head. Blind date. Nathan stopped in his tracks, turning to face her. Blind date? Yep. He narrowed his eyes. When did we go on our blind date? Sophie thought. 3 months ago, maybe? He replied quietly. Not even 3. Sophie looked at Nathan, confused. What does that have to do with anything? He met her eyes and asked, Miss Lane, do you really want to get married? I mean, you've gone on 3 blind dates in less than 3 months. Sophie blushed, slightly embarrassed. It's all my mom. She keeps setting them up. I'm not in a rush, but she's extremely motivated. Nathan didn't say anything. He just kept walking. Sophie quickly caught up to him. After a few more steps, he asked, So, what did you think of the guy today? She paused. You mean the blind date? He nodded. He was nice, seemed honest. Out of the corner of her eye, she noticed his hand curl slightly into a fist. He didn't say anything. After a moment, he asked, Are you planning to keep seeing him? Sophie shook her head. Neither of us is that interested. Nathan visibly relaxed. Then he asked, Out of all these blind dates, has anyone ever made you feel something? Like real interest? She looked at his side profile, heart thudding. I have, she wanted to say. It's you. But she was too scared of rejection, too afraid it would ruin the moment, so she just gave a small, awkward laugh. He gave a dry cough and finally admitted, Yeah, thinking back, I probably didn't handle it right either. That's why, when I saw you again that day, I told myself I had to talk to you one more time. Sophie eyed him suspiciously. Really? Because it felt like you saw me with another guy and freaked out. Like you were scared I'd move on. Nathan scoffed. Scared? Of you? Come on. She teased. Oh, just admit it, you were jealous. You ran to see me so fast, you didn't even change out of your uniform. His mouth opened, but he had no comeback. You think I care that much? Then next time a male co-worker gives me a ride home, she said with a smirk. Don't make that face. Nathan pulled the car over and looked her dead in the eye. Sophie Lane, try it and see what happens. She grinned. But why would it matter? You said you don't care. He stared at her for a second, then gave a long sigh and muttered, Fine, I admit it. I do care. A lot. I hate the thought of someone else taking you away. That's why I asked my supervisor for time off and went straight to your place that night. Sophie smiled, victorious. See? Now that's what I wanted to hear. Nathan coughed again, clearly flustered. Well, now that we're on the subject, from now on, you're not allowed to get rides home from male co-workers. Got it? She shrugged. Depends. I'll have to see what the situation is. He turned her to face him, voice firm. Number absolutely not! The urgency in his tone made her smile. Okay, she said with a laugh. Seeing you this serious and honest, I'll reject them all in advance. Finally, he smiled too, then said gently, Sophie Lane, from now on, it's just me, all right? Looking at the face she had fallen for from the very first moment, she smiled and nodded. All right, just you. Dear listeners, today's emotional love story comes to a close. If it touched your heart, please don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you haven't already, subscribe to our YouTube channel to support our team in bringing more tender, unforgettable stories to life. Wishing you endless joy, gentle days, and a heart always filled with love. Until we meet again in the next story, take care and stay inspired.